welcome to iHorror, the official podcast of iHorror.com. This is episode 153, otherwise known as season 8, episode 13. I am your host, James J. Edwards, and with me, as always, is your other host, Jacob Davidson. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing good now that it's Halloween.
Today is Halloween. For those keeping track at home, we are recording on Halloween. So happy Halloween, everybody. Also with us, as always, is your other host, John Correa. How you doing, Correa?
Doing all right. Is it a bit early? Tired? You know, the usual complaints.
I don't even want to hear about tired from you two. You guys know my work schedule. Uh, let's jump right in to this because we also have some exciting guests that are, spoiler alert, taking up most of the episode.
Yeah.
What's been going on? I saw something that opens actually. I don't know if it's this week or next week, but the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie, Bugonia. Have you guys heard about this?
Of course.
Yeah, it played at Beyond Fest, and I think it does have a wide release now. I know it's playing at like Alamo Drafthouse.
Did you see it at Beyond Fest?
No, I didn't.
Okay, this is it's pretty much the next logical progression in what Yorgos Lanthimos is, because it is probably one of his more accessible movies, but it's also very Yorgos. It's about these two conspiracy theorists. One is Jesse Plemons, and they're convinced that aliens from the Andromeda galaxy are living on Earth and they're going to destroy the Earth. And they have determined that this high-powered female executive, who is played by Emma Stone, is one of them. So they kidnap her. And they basically want her to take them to her leader, so that they can save the Earth. And it's a very Yorgos movie in that it's just like real quirky and weird. It's, in sci-fi, but here's the thing about it. The big difference between this and Lanthimos' other movies is that this one, he lets his actors roll with it, where normally Yorgos Lanthimos movies are, you just get like those wooden straight line readings, like Killing of a Sacred Deer. It's like a surgeon can never kill a patient, an anesthesiologist can kill a patient, but a surgeon can't. You get those real straight line readings. He actually lets his actors run with this, so it's not just completely stoic performances, and the performances are terrific. Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone are both, and the other conspiracy theorist is I think it's his first movie. His name's Aidan Delbus. He's the closest thing to a Yorgos performance you get, because he's like developmentally challenged, so he does kind of like the, but what are we doing here, Teddy? Like he's more of like the questioning, but he's completely manipulated by actually both of the other two. It almost comes off as like a stage play because it's real contained, and most of the movie is just the three of them. And the alliances and manipulation just completely shifts the whole time. So it's really good though. It is, and it does this thing where there's a twist and then it untwists and then it twists back again. It's like one of those things where it's like the twist seems obvious and then they talk you out of it. And then, nope, that really was the twist. It's pretty crazy though. But yeah.
Funny enough, I did see the original movie that it was based on.
Yeah, it's
Save
a Korean
the Green
movie.
Planet.
Yeah, Save the Green Planet.
Yeah, Save the Green Planet, the South Korean film.
Yeah, it is. I have not seen that, but I'm curious to see how close it is to that. Because yeah, it is. It's an English language. It's an Americanized remake of that. Because it takes place in America and it's English language, but it is. I kind of feel like Yorgos has found a bit of a muse in Emma Stone now.
Oh yeah.
And also Jesse Plemons might be one of his go-tos now too. But yeah, it's it's pretty crazy, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets Oscar talk, which is great because it's at its root, it's a science fiction movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, him and Emma Stone have made 3 movies in 3 years together. So, and that's not their first three. There's what, their fourth or fifth film together?
Well, she was her first movie with him The Favorite?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Poor Things and Jesse Plemons did Kinds of Kindness as well with him. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's Yorgos being Yorgos, and I feel like he's getting, I feel like he gets attention now.
Yeah.
With The Favorite and Poor Things, he gets Oscar attention. So yeah, it's crazy. The screening I went to, they had a barber truck there. And the whole thing is they shave Emma Stone's head because they think that her hair has the alien's tracking device in it. So the whole thing with our screening was you got preferential seating at the screening. It was a promo screening. If you let them shave your head.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that was in my neighborhood. And yeah, I mean, I did want to see the movie, but I didn't want to see it that bad.
I almost went to it.
The rep actually said, "Are you going to shave your head?" And I usually do like a buzz cut kind of a thing, and I'm about due for a haircut. And I asked her, I'm like, "Hey, how short are they going to go?" She's all, "To the scalp," and I'm like, "Nah, I'll do Henry Rollins. I won't do Mr. Clean." And I already had the priority seating anyway for press, but I was going to take one for the team, and so I could be in the bald picture with everybody else, but. I didn't want to go cue ball.
Yeah. Understandable. Well, Jay, I know you talked about it last time, but Jacob and I finally saw Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I loved it. I thought it was a brilliant adaptation of Mary Shelley's novel with Guillermo's signature spin. And
now, what did you guys think about the pacing? Because I thought it was a beautiful movie, but like I said, I kind of had issues with the pacing. Did you guys have any problems with it?
I did not.
Oh,
I
okay.
was hooked the whole time. I was never bored. I was interested in pretty much every scene. I mean, I mean, it was a little slow at times, but still the performances still kept me interested in the story, particularly when the creature is, on its own and befriends the old man like that. It does go a bit slow, but at the same time, I was very compelled.
Yeah, I like that it marinated in these scenes quite a bit because this is like as close to the book as like any adaptation has gotten, but it also had that extra layer of what Guillermo del Toro was working through or having while with the film, with the whole, let's put it bluntly, daddy issues of it all, of both Victor with his father and kind of passing that along to his relationship with the monster and like just kind of like talking about like how that goes. And I like that it marinated in the scenes. The only bit that really kind of threw me off was, it was 2 things. It was Mia Goth's introduction. I thought that dinner scene where they're just like, oh, well, you've heard her talk before. And then all of a sudden she's talking about war when Frankenstein or when Victor's talking about, his experiments. It was that. And also the milk. That was, they're so uncomfortable. Why did Victor keep drinking milk like that? I don't know if that's just a quirk they put in with it or if there's like a deeper meaning. Either way, I was just like, that grown ass man is drinking an uncomfortable amount of milk. Maybe it was just to highlight how evil he is. I don't know. But the milk thing was rough, but I loved it. I aesthetically and thematically, I really do feel like it is a culmination of like 20 plus years of what Guillermo del Toro has been doing. I mean, I still love Pan's Labyrinth and Crimson Peak more, but I still really love this adaptation. And the creature design and acting by Jacob Elordi was phenomenal, especially since he is a talking Adam. Like, so I loved, especially when you the progression of how he's talking and how he's moving from, especially when it's going into part 2 from the monster side. It's like, oh God, is he going to still talk like he did, like he does with the blind man? But with the progression of intelligence and cognitive was there. So it was, and the random bouts of violence is great. That opening scene, I very loudly just screamed, fuck. because of the
Mhm.
back break. That was crazy.
It is one of the most memorable opening scenes you're going to find, and then the whole thing when they get Victor onto the boat and he's like, how many of your men do you kill? Like he knew what was after him, so
Yeah. No, it was great. There's going to be some toxic twunks out there that are going to be dressed up like the creature when he's in the basement, though. Calling it.
Also, it's interesting that the design for Adam was based off of the Bernie Wrightson sketch art of Frankenstein. Have you seen those?
Oh,
I haven't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but the horror artist Bernie Wrightson, yeah, he did I think a comic book adaptation of Frankenstein years ago, and I think Del Toro said that was a prime influence for that specific design.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about because of the hair and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Let's move on now to let's seg into our interviews for this week, and let's talk about Shelby Oaks. You guys have both seen Shelby Oaks, right?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Saw that Beyond Fest.
Would you guys? Oh, cool! You saw it. I actually had to see it on the little screen. We were talking before we hit record that you guys thought that I had seen Frankenstein on a small screen. Nope, I saw it on IMAX. It was, and that's a big screener. If you have a chance to see Frankenstein in a theater, do it.
You saw it on IMAX?
Yeah,
Fuck.
it was IMAX.
I saw it on 35, but still.
Yeah, Frankenstein's a big screener. Shelby Oaks, I did see on a little screen though, but I think it works that way because Shelby Oaks, it's kind of part like true crime documentary, part found footage, and then just part narrative film. But the way that it's all stitched together, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the way it's stitched together is kind of brilliant. The way that it comes together. It's basically about these true crime podcaster kind of like this team who go missing, and it's kind of the search for them. And of course, they're investigating like kind of like a ghost. It's not really true crime. They're like paranormal research. That's what aren't they called, the paranormal paranoids or something like that?
Yeah, paranormal paranoids.
Yeah. So it's not really true crime. It's ghost investigators, and they go missing, and everybody's looking for them. But yeah, it's a pretty intense movie. Actually, it's about as intense as found footage can get, even though it's not technically found footage, but there are elements of it. What do you guys think of Shelby Oaks?
Oh yeah, no, I'd say it still counts as found footage, considering that the found footage is such a major plot point. And actually, at the Beyond Fest screening, we all got DVDs. Actually, I got one right here. Who Took Riley Brennan, which has the footage from the paranormal paranoids in Shelby Oaks.
Oh, that's cool. That's a really cool promo thing they did there.
Yeah, no, it was a very good way to hype up the film and the found footage aspects.
That is cool. For those of you, I mean, we're audio only, but Jacob held up. It basically is like a burned DVD in Sharpie says who took and it's in like one of those envelopes you buy at like Fry's,
And it's got some blood splatter on it.
Yeah, ooh, blood splatter too. I didn't even notice that. That's a brilliant promo item. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, no, I always do appreciate a movie like that going the extra mile. Very Blair Witch. But yeah, no, I'd still say it still counts as found footage. Like we were talking about, it's kind of a mixture because there is found footage, there's a mockumentary aspect, there is the narrative aspect. So it is an interesting way of putting the film together with three different mediums.
Yeah. I definitely because the opening is all true crime mixed with the found footage of the paranormal paranoids, and so I definitely like for that first like 10 minutes or so I was sitting there going like, oh no, it's another fake true crime or found footage about YouTubers going missing. Oh no,
because it opens with this is the last time anyone has saw her alive.
Yeah. And it's like the mockumentary of like the search for her and stuff. And then, so
it does seem like it's going to be real typical because it does the whole Blair Witch. A year later, their footage was, know.
But then But then the moment happens where it's just like, oh, that's not what we're doing. Oh, okay. And like,
we're behind the masking it here.
yeah, like I wasn't like not into it, but I definitely, I mean, I think we've all seen, missing YouTuber, found footage films. There are a dime a dozen, but I really enjoyed like that complete shift. And then not only that, but like a lot of times these type of movies kind of gloss over the personal relationships in favor of like trying to be more spooky, trying to be more scaries and all that stuff. But this movie really does do a good job of like really not letting go of the fact that like this is a person looking for their missing sibling. And so it does add weight to it. And especially later on when you're discovering the truths and getting behind stuff, because I don't want to spoil that third act. That third act just is bonkers, and I had a lot of fun with that. But it's really great, and even so like there's a whole bit with like an abandoned prison, and it's so it's so dirty. I can having shot in abandoned prisons, like I could smell that. It's but it comes off like it is musty and wet and dirty and yeah, it gets pretty nasty at times, that movie. It's great.
About as much as we'll spoil the third act is you're not going to be disappointed with the third act.
No. I mean
it really your jaw drops in that third act. It's pretty awesome.
It was a weird one. But yeah, great. I thought great use of like mixed media pacing and especially space. I think they did a really great job. There were a lot of moments where the shot was very wide, and it's like, why are we wide? Now I'm looking in that dark corner. I live for that. In the moment, I hate it because I'm just like, no, now there's something tense about to happen here. But I thought it was.
And it's also one of those movies where like is something in that dark corner, and you'll swear that you'll see something move even when there's nothing moving there. It like plays with you like that too. I mean, it was shot really well like that. So, yep.
And now to get into our main topic this week, we are, of course, being joined by some of the filmmakers behind Shelby Oaks. We have composer James Burkholder, we have Brett Bachman, and Patrick Lawrence, the editors. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, awesome to have you guys here. Brett, welcome back again. I know it's been a couple months.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me back.
Of course. And the day that we are recording, it is October 24th, which of course is release day for Shelby Oaks. So congratulations, everybody. I know it's been quite a long road for this film to get made and out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Awesome. So as our viewers know, we always like to start off our interviews by asking our guests, how did you get started? What kind of got that spark going and got your career going? Let's start with you, James.
Yeah, well, I played music my whole life. I started playing violin at 8 and guitar at 10, and then quickly stopped playing violin because I was like, guitar's way more fun. Yeah, I grew up like playing guitar, playing in bands, writing songs. And then after I went to college, I got a gig touring for another artist as their guitar player, and I was doing that for a while, which was really fun, but decided I wanted to not be on the road all the time. And so I've always really loved film music, but it never really seemed like something possible for me to get into. But I kind of just decided, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. I started taking some classes at UCLA Extension, which is actually a really great film scoring program. Some orchestration classes and stuff like that. And then I got an internship with the Newton brothers, who I've worked with for many, many years, and started assisting them and, you know, doing additional music and additional synth design and stuff like that for them. And that's kind of how I got into film scoring.
Wow, that's awesome. And so you've been working with the Newton brothers ever since, and
Yeah.
Especially on this project.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. What about you, Patrick? What's the origins of Patrick Lawrence?
Well, I went to school to be a director. I wanted to be a director, and I was taking a semester of college where I was doing a film production course and a video production course at the same time. And one class, I was editing 8mm film on a Steenbeck. Another class, we were going out and shooting on DV tape and then editing it in the next hour. So that sort of realization of, what editing could be in terms of, what I wanted to do as a director, really fascinated me. And so I was also playing music and in a band. So I started doing video stuff for the band. And when the band fizzled out, I decided to do filmmaking full time and started directing and editing music videos for bands that I knew. And that got me connections within the film community. And I just started working as a professional editor after that and moved to LA in 2015 and basically left all the work I had back home in St. Louis behind and came out here with nothing and no contacts and just had to start from the ground up again. And it just basically built up from there. I did a couple short films in 2016 that ended up getting into Sundance. And so I had 2 films in Sundance in 2016. And then one of those ended up turning into a feature called Clara's Ghost. And that got me, Scare Me. And then after Scare Me, I kind of fell into doing horror comedies. And one of those was a film called Blood Relatives that got me Shelby Oaks.
Love Scare Me, by the way. That was
I will echo that sentiment. Great.
Thank you so much.
And working with mini DV tapes really ties into Shelby Oaks.
It does. All of Chris's references, I had boxes filled with them that I left home in St. Louis. And so when he would pull them out and talk about, the technology he wanted to use to edit the tape and everything, it was those were all in my wheelhouse from doing video podcasting and things for my band, in the 2000s.
My favorite little bit of trivia behind the scenes, or one of my favorite little bits of trivia, was when Chris talks about making these paranoid videos, all the paranormal paranoid stuff, where he set these rules in place. And Patrick, you can elaborate on this, but he was like, I don't want to use any editing software on the found footage component that didn't exist in 2008. So he was like, I was bringing stuff into iMovie and applying the very basic text layers from that perspective.
It's like method filmmaking.
He had all of those things still that he would, and at one point we were trying to find material that would be what would you call it? Crime scene images of what the paranoids would have left behind. And so Chris was pulling out all kinds of technology and things that he had collected over the years and stacking it and making it look like it had just been left behind by the filmmakers.
That's awesome. When you guys had to search for that type of software, was that a bit of a struggle? Because some of that you gotta dig deep on the Internet Archives or find somewhere. Of these things.
I think it was on Chris's old computer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He just had an old computer from that time.
Yeah, he had an old iMac that I think that he just pulled up and was using to do that stuff.
Opened it off, blew it off, and prayed that it would turn on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised it even worked at all.
Praying it, not connecting it to the internet so it wouldn't update and crash the whole thing.
Yeah, seeing the original YouTube layout definitely made me nostalgic.
For sure.
Yeah, same.
Oh man, bring me back to the albino black sheep days with early YouTube and all of that.
And that was something that I remember early on, him telling me that he had reached out to YouTube people and gotten permission to use it. And I'll think his roots in the YouTube community go so deep that it was fascinating to me because somebody who had made YouTube content when it first came out and, music videos and things like that, he knows things so deep about it and like how the numbers work and who to contact for certain things and all that stuff was like so fascinating to me.
Which is integral because I mean, one of the things, especially when you're trying to portray something as real, like found footage, is there's got to be a level of authenticity, and that kind of kills it when just those little details where it's like, oh, this is clearly a made up home thing, or yeah, that's right, everyone was very what was it? MeTube was very popular. Sure, that thing existed. So having that authenticity really helps sell it. Makes it unsettling a bit. Now, Brett, we've had you on in the past and we've heard a bit of your origin story. So really, what have you been up to since the last time we talked a few months ago?
Well, first off, thank you for having me back on the show.
Of course.
Big fan, guys. Let's see. Yeah, we talked for Companion and Hard Eyes. This has been kind of a crazy year for me. By the end of the year, I'll have 6 feature films that have come out. Thanks. Companion, Hard Eyes, Toxic Avenger last month, Shelby, Rabbit Trap, and then I have a picture called Lone Samurai coming out in December. So it's been busy. I guess since we last talked, I've started a show with Mr. Mike Flanagan. I've been working on Carrie since early summer, I want to say. And we are actually today. It's not just release day for Shelby, but it is the last day of production for Carrie as well. We are wrapping production on that today. Officially starting post-production. But we've been editing the entire show for months. But that's very much been keeping me very occupied and very busy.
Man, where have you had the time having 6 things coming out? Jeez,
I also have children.
I was about to say
I don't know. It's materialized, and I'm breathing since February.
The coffee pot has never not been full. I'm assuming.
It's sad. I'm up to like 6 or 7 cups a day. It's not healthy.
Ever since I got back from Vegas, I've been doing the bangs every day just to like wake up in the morning. I need to start calming down before I have a
As
heart
an aside,
attack.
the Toxic Avenger ruled. And it's funny, another movie I saw at Beyond Fest.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Oh, thanks, Jacob. Appreciate it. Yeah, I had a fucking blast working on that film. Also, a long road to the finish line for that one coming across, but I'm so happy that it's finding its audience after all these years and so much uncertainty about. But it certainly found its weirdos. It's found its people that love the weird, sweet, gross pulpiness of it, and it's the sweet, sweet saccharine heart with gore aplenty.
And Vertigo homages.
Yes. Oh God, I'm glad you picked that up. That was one of my favorite things about that transformation sequence.
Oh yeah, no, that was incredible.
I love it.
So getting into it, how did you guys become involved with Shelby Oaks and Chris Duckman?
Oh, I guess I'll go first. Like I said, I'd done a movie called Blood Relatives, and that was produced by the guys at Paper Street. And while we were in post on that movie, there was this buzz about their next big thing that had just raised $1.4 million on Kickstarter. So, we were all intrigued by it and didn't know much about it. And then when they made their like Keith David casting announcement, that was the thing that I was like, okay, I'm going to shoot Aaron Kuntz a message and just kind of like plant the seed a little bit. And a couple months later, I got the call, and they had wrapped in May of 2022. And this was like late June. And they sent me the script, and I read it on a plane and loved it, was fascinated with it. It was doing a thing that I'd always wanted to do as a filmmaker myself, which was make a faux documentary that felt realistic. And I was trying to do that with a short film that never happened. And so the first 30 pages of the script were this documentary. So I was like, shit, this is the thing. This is exactly what I was wanting to do. So I was really hooked on it. And I had a very quick meeting with Chris, where I was familiar with him, but I wasn't subscribed. I didn't know, much about him other than he was a film critic. And we hit it off right away. Obviously it's like when you watch his videos, you see all of the collection he has behind him. And it's much like what I've got going here in this room. And so we just connected right away. And, the funny thing is that they had given him the hard drive with all the production rolls on it, and he was messing with the movie already. Like I think he had already cut a version of the movie just sitting there up all night long for like 2 months before I had even started. So we talked about that, and my usual process when I'm brought on after a movie is doing the assembly cut, which in this case took about 4 weeks. And I didn't want to see what he had done because I didn't want to be influenced that much. I wanted to have my own spin on it. But what was great about it was that there were things that I figured out that he didn't figure out. He thought they were going to have to reshoot the ending, and I didn't think about it that way. Like, to me, it's like whatever happened on set didn't matter. Like, I was just like, this is the footage you gave me, so I'm going to make something work with this. And so I gave him something that like solved a lot of problems. And then at the same time, there were things that he had done that I was like, actually, that's pretty good. Let me take that and recreate that and then put my own spin on it. And so that was sort of where we met in the middle, which was really great. So that was the start of it.
Nice.
That's awesome. What about you, Brett? What did you get brought into Shelby Oaks?
So I had heard about this movie entering production through the trades, but also coincidentally, I went to high school with the post producer of this movie, Alex Udy.
Yeah.
We both graduated Dahoma High School, 2005, Maple Valley, Washington.
Small world.
Coincidentally, like he's living in Austin now. But I'd been following the Facebook page of like what was going on here. I'd heard that Patrick was on this. I didn't really have much. I wasn't too familiar with Chris. But I had been following the news of this, and I was working on Fall of the House of Usher with Mike, and we were working out of this building in Studio City here in Los Angeles. And one day I'm in the editing facility, and I look down the hallway and I see these folks carting an Avid into one of the vacant rooms at the end of the hall. And I'm like, what is going on? Are we getting another show down the hallway? Is someone else leasing this space? And then I see Patrick wandering the hallways. I'm like, what are you doing here? Hi. And it turns out Mike had invited Patrick and Chris to sit in to kind of set up shop for like a few days down the hall. And Mike would come in and give some ideas to Chris and some ideas to Patrick, and they would bounce back and forth some stuff. And so that was my opportunity to meet Chris. Went down and exchanged a few pleasantries and talked with him just for like 10 minutes, just to get an idea of what he was doing. And I think it was Patrick, I think that was like his first time in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Ever. And so I think he was a little shell shocked about the city. And I think I gave him some restaurant recommendations, but it was a pretty quick meeting. And
the other thing I loved about that was that he was staying at the Safari Inn down the street, and his brain is like, that's the hotel from Apollo 13.
Yeah. And True Romance as well.
Yeah,
that's true.
But I didn't hear anything about the movie for months. But I think the next thing I heard about it was that I was going to Fantasia and the Neon acquisition, which was a big burst of news. And so I was really just happy for Patrick, happy for Chris, happy for this production that, was a grassroots indie. I mean, by definition, like this little passion project that had bloomed and flourished into something, really cool that was apparently going to reach a wide audience. And a few months went by, and I got an email from Chris. And he was like, an opportunity has arisen through Neon to do some pickups, to do some things that on the movie that we wanted to do initially, but we just didn't have the resources for. And Neon is going to allow us to shoot a new ending, allow us to pick up some additional photography, to redo a scene or two. And he's like, Mike has said wonderful things about you. Would you be interested in, looking at these reshoots, but also, presenting some ideas for the movie? And then there happened to be a good window of opportunity there. So I took advantage of it. And I set up shop here in my apartment or here in my house in Alhambra and loaded up the cut and looked at essentially the movie that had gone to Fantasia and presented some ideas to Chris. And we noodled on it under the hood for a few weeks on some ideas. And they ended up bringing in this material from the reshoots, and we incorporated that. And we took it through a new sound mix. James ended up, I think, making a few new cues on the movie.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4. Yeah.
3 or 4 new cues. So yeah, that's my story.
And what about you, James? When were you brought in?
Yeah, so it would have been January 3 years ago. It would have been January 2023. The Newtons hit me up, and this was before it had been announced that Mike was EPing the movie. Mm-hmm. And they were like, hey, we've got this movie. It was like a Kickstarter thing, but Mike really, really likes it. Would you take a look at this? We want you to come on and co-score the film with us. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to check it out. And so we got what I'm sure is one of the very first rough cuts of the film. It had all temp VFX. And I sat down and watched it with my wife, and it was one of the most, I've seen rough cuts before. It was the most compelling rough cut I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was like, I need to get in on this. And so I signed on, but we actually didn't end up, I think they were re-editing it. I don't know exactly what was going on. We didn't end up actually start work on it officially until like probably May, I would say, of that year.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I was just stoked. I was stoked on this concept. So I just started writing stuff. I started writing suites. I started writing themes. I started working out, different instrumentations, different vibes and sounds for different characters and situations, which was really, really awesome. You never, ever get that opportunity as a composer to have that much time to kind of like play in a sandbox and figure out what you want to do sonically. So by the time we had our first spotting session, we had a ton of music, and we had actually just been like sending Chris stuff and be like, hey, here's some music, like plug it in where you want to plug it in and see how you like it. And that helped us narrow down kind of what we wanted to do musically. And then from there it was just a blast. Like working with Chris, he's such an empathetic dude, and he also, by the way, I've said this in other interviews, but it's very true. He has encyclopedic knowledge of film scores. And so the shorthand there between somebody who knows all that stuff and composers is really quick. And so it was really fun getting to, talk with him about different, Patrick's brought this up too, but like he like temped Field of Dreams in a horror movie, which is like, who does that?
And I love Mike clocked it right away. He goes, Field of Dreams.
Yeah, I bet. I'm sure he did. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got brought in. Yeah.
God loved when people have that type of knowledge to back up and go, I'm going for this, going to this, rather than getting a note of like, can this be more artistic?
Yeah. Can this be a little more...
Make it more crunchy.
Yeah, can this be more blue? I'm like, I don't know. You might be colorblind, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Off of that, what scores did Chris specifically reference in relation to Shelby Oaks and what he was going for?
I mean, there was a bunch of Newton Brothers stuff. It was funny because it was like there were scores that I had worked on that were temped in there already. There was like Dr. Sleep. I think Oculus was in there, I'm pretty sure. But then, like, I mean, the cool thing was that, like, he wasn't ever married to the temp score, which is such a dream as a composer. He was always like, you go do whatever weird shit you guys do and come back and we'll check it out.
It's always tough when someone's married to the temp score because it's like, well, we can't do that.
Yeah.
That's already done.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll say what's great about this is that when we found out we were going to be working with the Newtons and then James, it gave us the opportunity to start pulling from their library. And I can talk about this, I think, but in the third act, Chris and I weren't sure what to do with the music. We had tried a couple things. Nothing was really working. And we had to go into the room with Mike, and I was real nervous because I knew we were showing him this scene dry. And I knew that the number one note we were going to get was, well, it needs score. I know. But once we found out we had the Newtons, it made it easier to go in and pull from their stuff to really build the type of soundscape that we needed for that scene.
Yeah.
And then James came in and what he wrote just like completely knocked it out of the park.
Thanks, dude.
Absolutely. I mean,
Nice.
What a varied catalog too with James and the Newtons. I mean, it's not only a lot of projects, but there's a lot of miniseries, so you could like have a lot more to pull from of different tones and different atmospheres. So understandable. And yeah, that third act. I we don't want to spoil anything, but that third act, holy shit! You guys fucking knocked it out of the park.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it gets loud at the end.
It does. Yeah.
Make it very loud.
Oh, yeah. And something I was interested in asking was because Shelby Oaks is kind of a cross medium in that it's narrative, found footage, and documentary. What was it like having to do music in those different formats?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we really, from the get-go, like from the first spotting session, we were saying we want it to feel different, but we don't want it to feel like a different movie, if that makes sense. We want it to all... So thematically, everything kind of stays pretty similar throughout. Like, we're using the same themes throughout to connect everything in your mind. But, you know, in the opening section, for instance, there's that sonic palette. Like, you don't end up hearing that again in the movie because we've kind of shifted focus at that point. And...
Right.
You know, me and Andy and Taylor, we kind of got together and we were like, okay, so if this was just a true crime documentary, well, we didn't want to like go and listen to a bunch of like Netflix documentaries. We were like, how would we do this?
Yeah, the film is really good about sitting in moments and like holding on things. And for everyone in the room here, when is it like guttural? How do you know when to like hold on things? Because with the score, there's moments where nothing is happening with sound, and that's uncomfortable, especially I'm thinking like the cabin scene. There's a lot of open space happening, and there's a lot of moments where music's not happening. The angle is off, so you're constantly looking at that corner right over there going, something's about to happen in that fucking corner. I know it. And then,
that's by design. That's supposed to be happening. That's good.
I don't like it, guys. I don't like it. I don't like it when you do that to me. No, I do. I love it. But in the moment, it's like, I don't like this. I don't like what you're doing. Release this tension, please.
I mean, that's all anticipation.
Yeah.
It's a fun sandbox to be working in. But it's evaluating what does the narrative require? What does the story require? What is the beat we want the audience to be experiencing right here? And if it's if it's building towards a scare, 90% of your scare is anticipation. It's the ambiguity of that threat. Where is it coming from? When is it coming from? And I mean, there's several great opportunities in this film to really draw that tension out. I mean, I'm thinking of, you really hit the nail on the head with that cabin scene with the attack at the end of Act 1, and then seeing without giving too much away, what happened to Riley. About a third of the way into the movie, but also the very, very beginning of the movie as well, with establishing the disappearance right off the bat. I remember seeing the cut that had gone to Fantasia, and one of my first impressions of the film was Riley talking to the camera, the subtext or the subtitles saying this is the last time that she was seen alive, and she disappears, but you don't really get a sense of what occurred in this attack, what took place. You just know she kind of disappeared into the air. One of the first things I did was to look at this material and be like, oh, and look at what had been shot, years ago with Sarah, who played Riley, and think there's a great opportunity here to really open this up, really make this breathe, really linger in this tension. And really, I think Patrick, I think I basically reverted to a cut that you had months ago that was really just let that moment breathe, really let you hang in the air with her staring at this door. You've heard all these attacks in the other room. It's a threat outside, but we're going to make you sit in it. We're not going to fly through this and get the story going immediately. We're going to establish there's danger. Let the audience sit in this for 30 seconds. And she walks out the room, and you hear something outside. You don't know what it is. You don't know exactly what is occurring. If she's encountered something, if she's been abducted, if she's fallen, if she's run outside, there's this ambiguous sound of something, and then the movie begins. Mm-hmm. I basically Patrick, this was something I think you guys had tried right before Fantasia.
Yeah.
And I think there was like notes coming in that were like, okay, we need to accelerate this story. Let's get the movie going. And I was like, no. This is a case where you plant a flag. You tell your audience, this is what you're expecting for the next 90 minutes, 80 minutes. And also it's one of the more effective moments of dread and tension in the entire film, I think.
Yeah. What I love about what Brett did was he went back in and he found things that I was really precious about. There were things that I did not want to cut. And, over the course of a movie, when you're in it for, a year and a half, like I was, there's a lot of thoughts and notes, especially different filmmakers and different personalities and people. The film morphs along the way. And there were things that we had done very early on that instinctually I really wanted to see, come to fruition. And one of those was in the opening sequence, just sitting in that tape for the entire length of the tape. And I wanted the audience to just get increasingly more uncomfortable with being in that room with Riley up until the point she gets taken. And the scene had gotten cut down. And I didn't think it had the same effect, when I was done with it. And so Brett brilliantly brought that back in, and I love that. And a few other scenes too. The cabin scene, the scene on the porch, was another one that like I loved and got thrown away. And he had the instincts to bring it back in and let that tension draw out, because that's what I don't think I'm like the greatest with jump scares, but like I feel like I can do tension pretty good. And I love making the audience uncomfortable. You see that a lot in Scare Me as well. Like we would sit in a shot forever just trying to make the audience think like, is something about to happen? But it doesn't.
Yeah.
And sort of throw them off kilter.
I will say that the porch scene, so I've seen it twice. I saw it at Fantastic Fest, and then I saw it at Beyond Fest in the last couple months. That porch scare, I'm jumping 10 feet out my seat every fucking time, and I know it's coming. And I scored the jump scare.
Right. Same.
That's how you know it's good.
I've seen this movie a million times, and I'm sitting in the theater next to James, and both of us jumped because Brett just fucking killed it.
Oh, yeah. Well, so much about a jump scare. What makes it work is you're anticipating the jump. I mean, I think one of my favorite things about this movie is that we're playing with jumps twofold. I mean, we certainly have moments where you're paying off with a sting, whether it be the porch attack. But, one of my favorite moments in the film that was a product of a pickup shoot. Sorry. Oh, God, there's something.
Oh, you're good. Was
this flashback memory that Mia is telling a story of the first time that she saw something outside her window. We're purposefully really manipulating with time and the reveal of a character or an object outside that window and subverting the audience's expectations to see something, and how you go about that. And one of my favorite things about working with Chris is that he's quite familiar with the archetypes and the devices. I mean, as a giant film fan, and he's likes to play with audiences' expectations in that way. He knows what they're anticipating and can either know how to delay that, know how to manipulate that expectation to producing something new. And that was a great opportunity with him.
Oh, I mean, again, that porch scene that changes the tone of everything, and the fact that you guys made us sit in it for that long was brutal. Brutal. And I say all these things like negative, but I know our listeners can't see. I have the biggest dumb smile on my face when I say stuff like that. When I'm like, dang, fuck you for making me sit in that. No, it's brilliant. Because you want those type of reactions from people. Not saying anyone's asleep, but that wakes you the fuck up and makes you go, oh shit, what can happen next? Because I don't know. Like, everything just changed from what's happening before.
Oh, yeah, no, like the bit that got me on edge was the prison scene. The environment and the pacing just really had me on edge because I knew something bad was going to happen.
Oh man, I've shot a found footage film in an abandoned prison before. So the second I see that happening, I'm just like, I know what that smells like.
Yeah.
So like immediately was there.
Oh man.
And sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't know about this, but like I was on edge by that point. You guys got me good.
Excellent.
And looking in the darkness and stuff, and I'm like,
I love that we were able to get that entire scene silent.
Yeah.
I don't think until it's not.
Yeah.
Until there's very much music at 100.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's that entire investigation of her going around the cell, seeing the Ferris wheel, seeing the footprints on the ground, the flashlight panning. Like the only thing you're hearing is Camille, our actor, playing Mia, just breathing intensely, frightened, and you have no idea what's about to occur.
yeah.
And then, then the next sound is Mia not breathing. It's something else breathing.
Yeah. And the film famously got the reshoots to happen with the Neon deal, which is awesome. I haven't seen the previous Fantasia cuts or anything like that, so I don't know what was changed differently. But what were some of the challenges on making that work? Because I mean, there had been a few years since it was initially shot, the film, and then you have these new endings, and even just like piecing together or making it flow, making it look consistent without there suddenly be a mega change. What were some of the challenges?
Well, I mean, I will say they were not mega changes. These reshoots were very light.
Awesome.
They were not. We were not redoing entire sequences. This was a very like a light 2-3 day pickup. Then they were motivated. I think the biggest reshoot we did was to consolidate two existing scenes for momentum reasons and pace reasons in the movie. We had the advantage of coming back from Fantasia, of coming back from the film having premiered, and Chris got a lot of feedback from not that just that opportunity to show it in front of a public audience, but Neon tested the film with a recruited audience. They got some data back in, and one of the recurring things that have popped up on some of these questionnaires was like there was some questions about pace in the middle of the movie, about the way the structure of the character going here, discovering that, going there, and Chris was thinking, is there a way I can consolidate some of these scenes? And so we reshot. We took two scenes from the Fantasia cut and we reshot them to consolidate these two scenes into one brand new scene. So the scene where like Mia is like laying down all the paperwork on the table, all the photos of her detective work, that used to be two separate scenes. And it took twice the screen time to do. And so Chris was like, I think we can really keep the momentum of the movie going if I just get the actors back and consolidate this. And it worked. It works quite well. Keeps the momentum going, keeps the pace going. And that was probably the bulk of the pickups, was just that. We ended up redoing some of that prison scene that we just discussed. I think largely because when we shot this the first time, it was actually at the prison, and that set was quite restrictive. Chris could not do a lot of the camera work that he wanted to in the actual location. He couldn't get some of the angles he wanted. He couldn't get some things on the walls. There was a thing about art. They couldn't have some of the props and some of the set design that he wanted. And so we reshot that on a stage just for, I think, the intent of like building up that moment and making that as scary as it could. And then we reshot a few elements to amp up the visceral violence at times. I think a lot of, Patrick, you can talk about this going through the iterations of the film. But one of the first things Neon did after the acquisition was like look at the shooting script that was part of the delivery requirements, and they realized this bit in the script is not in the film. Why did you cut that out? And Chris would say, we never shot that. We did not have the logistics did not make that possible for us to pick that up. And Neon came back and they're like, would you like to shoot? Would you like to have this into the movie?
We would like this, please.
Yeah. And so case in point, when Mia is watching the tape and you see the attack of what happened to the paranoids, some of those intense moments of violence, those are pickups. Having a great visual effects crew, a great practical effects crew to show some of this harrowing, intense action. That's a pickup, and some creature work. We had without spoiling too much, there is something in the film that appears in corners, hidden in places and in shadows at times. And Chris had some ideas to update the look of this creature, of this monster. And so we had some wonderful prosthetics and some special effects with our unsaid creature, and got some of him on green screen and worked his way into the movie. But that was really it. I mean, in terms of reshoots, it was really not that much.
Yeah, to set the record straight, even though you're a $1.4 million Kickstarter fundraise film, after fees, it's still a low budget movie, right? And Absolutely. So there were a lot of restrictions that we had working on the initial film, which became the Fantasia cut of the film. And there were things that were in the script, like Brett mentioned, that didn't get shot, or, just every film goes through this where it's like, okay, well, we can't get that, so we got to move on. So a lot of the things that we were working with, we were stuck with because you're really limited by the footage you have and the story that we were telling. And some of these notes that Neon had come up, and the story points and things, but we were kind of handcuffed because there was no real way to cut around those things without finding a way to condense them. So that was a big part of it. And then, the minimal reshoots that happened were enhancements to things that were previously shot, but when you have the ability to go and make it, 100 times better, why not? So that was a big part of it. But yeah, no, I've seen comments and things online where it's like Mike Flanagan went and redirected the movie and blah, blah, blah. But no, to set the record straight, like Brett said, it was very minimal and it enhances the story. And
no, I don't think Mike has seen a cut after Fantasia. like I was talking with him because we're getting ready to go on Carrie, and I'd mentioned I'm going to do a pass on Shelby. And I was like, I'm tossing out to Paper Street and folks for notes. I mean, would you like to be a part of that? And he's like, nope. This is Chris's movie. I'm here to support, but I want to see the movie at the premiere in October. Like I'm not going to be involved in any of the reshoots. I'm not going to be involved in any of the notes. I'm here to support Chris. He did a great job. So Mike is certainly involved from the advisory capacity or earlier on, but ever since Fantasia, he has not been involved.
That's awesome to hear. I love hearing when there's names and things thrown around, and it's just no. They're very supportive. They're very, everyone just sounds so cool and buddy. That's awesome.
Yeah. Definitely not a Rogue One situation.
Uh-oh. We don't want to get in trouble there.
No. But no, he was extremely supportive and very hands-off, and really sincerely wants the best for Chris and just wants to support him, make sure that this is the first of many films for him.
Yeah. No. And we're excited to see any and all these future films. It's an amazing road that this film has gone through. It's years in the making, from the crowdfunding all to the acquisition to today it being released. So congratulations once again, guys. But before we head out, I just want to check in with you guys. Brad, I know you have a couple more projects coming out, but James and Patrick, what's coming up for you guys soon?
Patrick, go ahead.
I just had a movie premiere at Screamfest called Cognitive that I'm really excited about. It does not have a home yet, but it's like a sci-fi horror, with AI, and I compare it to Alien in a office space, but the alien is a omnipresent AI that is infecting all of the technology in the building, and it's a mix with bodies because it's a comedy. Cool. So very fun, comedic kills, lots of action, and directed by this guy, Tommy Savas, who I adore, and I had just the best time working with him. So I'm really excited for that to come out.
Yeah, I just started working on a kind of a creature feature movie that I can't talk too much about, but should be coming out next year.
All right, awesome. Can't have too many creature features.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a fact. If there's if there's too many creature features coming out, then that's a problem I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me all the creature features.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brett, what are the films that are coming out soon for you as well?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I have a film called Lone Samurai coming out with an old buddy, Josh C. Waller, the first director I ever worked with. I've done 3 features with. It's our 4th time working together. It's a samurai film coming out in December about a guy marooned onto a tropical island, and he discovers that he's not marooned. He's not alone. There are cannibals on the island with him.
Ooh.
Samurai
really
versus
fun.
cannibals.
It's a little meditative. It's a little Terrence Malick, and then it does not become. It becomes, I have a samurai sword, and I am fighting a little army of flesh eaters.
Wow.
So that we had a premiere Beyond Fest a few weeks ago, making the rounds for that right now.
Nice.
That'll be coming out, and then at some point next year, Carrie. Whenever we finish it, but we were wrapping production today, and it's been going really well.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
All right, looking forward to all that.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again so much for joining us today, sitting down. Brett, it's always a pleasure. Patrick, James, you're always welcome back.
Thanks, man.
As
Thank you.
Brett can say, we love having people come back and see where things are going. And I think last time, Brett, when we talked, it was very like, is Toxic Avenger finally coming out? So congratulations on that finally coming out. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm waiting for my steel book.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get that in 4K.
It's pre-ordered. And again, congratulations everyone on Shelby Oaks. Awesome job, and I can't wait to see more reactions out of people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks.
So our theme song is by Restless Spirit, and our artwork is by Chris Fisher. You can find Jacob, myself, and everyone else at iHorror.com, the place we call home. James, where can we find you online to keep up with what you're working on?
I'm on Instagram. It's james.wolf.burkholder is my at.
Awesome. And what about you, Patrick? Where can we find you?
On all the socials at Patrick Lawrence with all the vowels removed except for the E at the end. It just sort of looks better that way. I don't know. And also check out my band Occults at Occults Official.
Hell yeah. And Brett, where can we find you online?
I reluctantly have an Instagram. Brett W. Bachman, Instagram. I'm there. I post stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, I always tell people, I'm like, follow iHorror. If you follow my personal thing, it's just pictures of my cat and Star Trek memes. So.
I mostly post picture marquees.
Oh,
nice.
Yep. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you guys again. Until we meet again, keep your eye on horror. I'm Jonathan Correa.
I'm Jacob Davison.
I'm James J. Edwards.
I'm James Burkholder.
I am Brett W. Bachman.
And I'm Patrick Lawrence.
Keep your eye on horror.